So who am I? My name is John Irons. I'm a graduate of Arizona State University and the founder of Irons Interiors and Sick Green, which are both sustainable furniture companies here in Arizona. So why should you care about sustainable design? Well, we're facing a problem in our nation right now with rising landfills, and 9 million tons of that is actually furniture waste that's been added to it every single year, and that number's been going up. So why does this happen? Basically, ever since the Industrial Revolution, we've been designing things on a cradle-to-grave life cycle, which means that we designed them to be thrown away from the get-go. And that's just something that's kind of ingrained into our culture from the time we're children. And this is perpetuated by companies like IKEA and Walmart that distribute low-cost, low-quality furniture that basically just ends up in the alleyways or behind your house when you're done with them. So how do we fix this? We need to change our thinking in both the short term and the long term, and pretty much figure out a better way to deal with these materials that we are putting into the world. So in the short term, the best way to do that is upcycling, and that's using materials that we already have for another purpose, basically giving them a reason to exist instead of just throwing them away. And there are a couple different ways. There's a million different ways we can do this with a million different materials. This is one of them. This is using waste materials to make furniture. This is basically corrugated cardboard that's been sandwiched between other waste materials like plywood and steel, and giving them use as furniture. But unfortunately, recycling as we're doing it now is not a perfect solution at all. Basically, every single time we mix materials together in the current recycling system, they end up getting downgraded and turn into a lesser material that ends up getting thrown away. And this is shown, can be seen in lumber and wood. Basically, start with logs, you downgrade it into lumber planks, and then that gets chipped down into fiberboard and then mulched down into cardboard, which gets eventually thrown away after a certain amount of uses. So how do we fix this? How do we do this? So we need to go back to the beginning and reboot and basically rethink and redesign the materials that we're using in the current manufacturing processes right now and in design. And how do we do this? Well, cradle to cradle is a principle that was put forward recently. Basically, is a principle that puts forward using materials that are perpetually reusable. And this was put forward by William McDonough, who literally wrote the book on cradle-to-cradle design and changed the entire way that I think about the world and the materials that are in it and how we can use them and how we can make them better. And the cradle-to-cradle cycle breaks down into two different sections. There's the biological cycle, which basically everything that we design needs to go back into the earth and help the earth somehow. And the technical cycle basically is everything goes in a loop within a closed loop cycle in the factory. So basically it goes from manufacturing to the sale to the customer, shipping to the customer, the use by the customer, and then it gets recovered by the company, so the customer would send it back to them, and then the company reuses those materials to remanufacture new products. And this recovery system can be implemented a couple ways, most commonly through either a buyback or a trade-in program. So you would basically send your product back to them after you're done with it, and they would be able to reuse those materials, similar to like if you had a TV, you're not buying those materials, you're just buying the function of the TV. So once we reuse those products, those materials, basically we can, instead of just creating all new materials, we can basically reuse those old materials to create new products without using so much virgin material. And this creates a perpetual cycle of not just materials, but also of customers, because if those customers are getting an incentive to come back to that same company, they're more likely to continuously buy from that manufacturer because it benefits them. And this really goes back to material responsibility by the manufacturer, and that company need to take responsibility for the things they're putting out into the world. They need to realize that there's a finite amount of space, and we're really fastly approaching that ceiling. And so in summary, we need to start designing responsibly, and we need you, all of us, to start supporting sustainable products and sustainable companies that are trying to help this. And basically, Sick Green is a sustainable company, and they are currently on Kickstarter until April 11th. If you could support them, that would be absolutely fantastic. You can email me at jirons@sickgreen.com. Thank you very much.